having a discussion on various aspect of quality research. My ultimate target for these 5 days, as I mentioned, is going to be to make you aware what should be and do's and don'ts, particularly what you should do and what you should not do, don't what you should not do. And while doing this, as I mentioned earlier, and again, let me reiterate the same thing, that I'm not using any I mean bookish research methodology. I'm not making any presentation from that line of action. Rather, I have prepared these PPTs based on my own experiences. Of course, I have collected some data from various resources, which include literature as well, while making you aware. But mostly, like, I'm sharing my own experiences. So yesterday we were talking about the basic research and applied research. This was the last slide yesterday we talked about. So basic research always deals with, it's what we yesterday talked about. Basic research always deals with uh, 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 I mean uh, uh, discovering something new, which may not have commercial value, right? Which may not have the example I have quoted, like what are the protons, neutrons, and electrons composed of, right? So this is going to be a kind of new discovery, but even it may not have commercial value. And therefore, because I think I told you about innovation, right, in maybe on first day itself, because innovation is not only out of box idea. Innovation is going to be whenever, whatever you will be whatever idea you will be proposing, that idea should have the industrial application. In particular, industrial application means it should be useful for some cross section of society, and then it should have some commercial viability as well. This is what the innovation is going to be. So basic research may not fall into that particular category of innovation, but you will be discovering something new which is not there, or you might be proposing some fine tuning of the existing theories and uh, existing theories in particular, and therefore it may not have commercial value. Whereas applied research, as far as applied research is concerned, obviously it is going to be either process oriented or product oriented. So you will be in applied research, you will be coming out with new processes or new product, right? Like, for example, improve agriculture crop production. This is what we talked about yesterday. And there here, like, whatever processes and whatever products you will be proposing, or you will be coming out of this applied research, it will have commercial value, right? And therefore, uh, uh, you need to have a balance of basic research as well as applied research. Like, if somebody asks me, like, what would be my advice to young research scholars, I would say you should try to keep balance between basic and as well as applied research, so that you will be discovering new theories, and at the same time you will make it sure that whatever research you will be doing will have some sort of societal relevance, and it will have some commercial viability as well. Let us move further. There are mainly two different types of research: correlational research and the experimental research. Let me tell you what the correlational research is all about. Correlational research refers to the systematic investigation or a statistical study of relationship amongst two or more variables without necessarily determining cause and effect. So, because whenever we are talking about the applied research or experimental research, particularly, the cause and effect is going to be very, very important. Like, whatever the properties you will be evolving out of your own experiment, you need to understand what are the causes. Like, so cause and effect is going to be major factor as far as the experimental research is concerned, whereas in correlational research it may not be. I have quoted some examples here. Like, for example, okay, for example, a group of sample, let me tell you example. Listening to music lowers blood pressure level. It means, like, what we observe is, out of correlational research, or in general, I'm talking about the in general topic of research, like what we let us say I was referring to one particular research journal, and I came to know that the listening music always lowers the blood pressure. Like what I observed is there are I mean there are a huge, I mean there is a huge number of I mean there are huge number of people across the globe, and what the researchers have observed that listening to the various kind of music lowers the blood pressure, lowers down the blood pressure. Now if this is the topic, then you could have two different approaches. One approach could be my experimental approach. I mean, in experimental approach, what you will be doing, you will be categorizing into those people into two different groups, and then you will be advising one particular group to listen the music of their interest, and other you will not be asking anything to do, like let them do whatever they want. And at the end of that course, like at the end of that experiment, maybe like 1 week experiment or 1 month experiment or whatever, you would like to see what is going to be the effect, whether like before experimentation you are going to see what is that BP level, blood pressure level, and after the experiment you can see the BP level. And if you could find out the lower down the BP level, those who are listening music, then you will have to see like why it is happening, the cause effect. This is what the experimental research is all about. Whereas as far as the correlational research is concerned, you will not be doing any experiment. Like in experimental research, you will be doing intentional experiment. You will be conducting some experiment intentionally. Whereas in case of correlational research, you will not be doing any experiment, rather you will be collecting data from various people, right? So you will be looking, you will be taking interviews, you will be interacting with the people, and you will be asking, but okay, what was your BP like maybe like 10 years back, sorry, not 10 years back, like maybe 6 months back, and then what you are doing, if you are listening, if you are habitual of listening, the music of your interest, and then what is your level of BP now, right? Before, after practicing, after listening regular music, right? And then same thing you can ask for others, those who are not much interested in listening music, and see what kind of effect, what kind of data you will be having. Now, if you look at these two different kind of research, correlational research is always going to be little bit away from the actual facts, factual data, because you will be dependent on the people who will like who are going to tell you the reality. So they may not be telling you the factual data, right? But you will have to be dependent on that. Therefore, there will be a little bit deviation. But whereas as far as the experimental research is concerned, you are not going to have any deviation, and therefore like you have to decide what to do, whether you would like to proceed with experimental research or correlational research. So I have already mentioned that in the experimental research, you will be doing some intentional experiment, like intentionally you will be conducting some experiment, and then you will be observing the effect. This was the difference between correlational and experimental research. Now, as far as the qualitative and quantitative research is concerned, mainly like research is going to be classified into two different categories, broad categories, I would say, the qualitative research and quantitative research. Now, you need to understand like where do you stand, whatever you are doing as in today, you see like whether you are doing qualitative research or quantitative research. If you are doing qualitative research, what are going to be your limitations, because you need to understand what are limitations. Because I told you earlier, if you really want to come up with the impactful data, you need to understand what are your limitations are going to be. Because if you know your limitations, and if you start playing with your limitations, then you will be easily reaching to your goal. But if you don't know your limitations, then you will be in trouble. And therefore, the broadly, I'm going to describe what the qualitative and what the quantitative research actually is. Qualitative research is a research dealing with the phenomena that are difficult or impossible to quantify mathematically, such as beliefs, meanings, attributes, and symbols. Now, for example, how was experience today? If somebody asks you, how was your experience today? Let us say you have attended my talk today, and at the end of the talk, if I ask you, how was your experience today in this lecture? So you will be telling, oh, it was good, it was not good, it was excellent, whatever. But it cannot be quantified, right? It would be very difficult to quantify. Although you can have some parameters like 7 means 4 means average, 5 means good, 6 means very good, 7 means excellent. But still, it will be very difficult for you to quantify that in reality. I'm going to tell you one more example of qualitative aspect. Those who are teachers, like teacher research scholars, they must be well familiar with the NAAC accreditation framework. In revised NAAC accreditation framework, the metrics have been divided into two different categories: quantitative metrics and qualitative metrics. There, in your NAAC assessment and accreditation also, the data which can be quantified, the data, the aspect, or the properties of the institution which can be quantified are going to be measured across the quantitative metrics, and those which cannot be quantified are going to be measured across the qualitative metrics. Now I can quote one example. For example, the criterion 2 of NAAC assessment accreditation framework, that is teaching, learning, and evaluation. In criteria 2, one of the quantitative metrics is going to be what is the total number of the student passed out during last academic year, right? पिछले साल में how many number of students are going have been passed out. Okay, so let us say if you have 100 students appeared for the exam, final year examination, out of that, if 90 students passed out, you can easily quantify that data. It's 90%, right? But let me tell you another example. Let us say the question is, do you have the outcome-based education curriculum? Does your curriculum is OBE based? Okay, now you cannot say only yes and no. If you say yes, it's not going to I mean, you will not be able to tell the clear picture, right? So this is going to be a kind of qualitative metrics. There you need to describe, like whenever we are talking about the qualitative, you need to describe. It will be like dependent on many parameters. So you will have to, when somebody asks you whether your curriculum is OBE based, you should not say only yes or no. Yes and no cannot be answer of this question. So what you need to tell them that, okay, we are going to have the, I mean, our curriculum is outcome based education, OBE based curriculum. It has got this and this feature, right? So these are our program outcome, these are our course outcome, these strategies. Because again, as far as the outcome measurement is concerned, because in OBE, outcome measurement also depends on various scientific methods. There are different scientific methods which are being utilized to measure the outcome of OBE, right? So like how to measure program outcome, how to measure course outcome, it has got different methods. So you will have to mention that, you will have to describe that. So this is what the qualitative aspect is. Whereas another example is, you can see here, how is the feedback so far? Feedback, I mean, like if I ask you, how is the feedback so far? Like since this has been your third day of pre-PhD course, how is if I ask course coordinator, how is the feedback of students so far? So, but I am sure she will not be able to tell me very precisely unless she has measured the feedback across various parameters, right? So unless you have some you quantify your outcome, you will not be able to measure it very systematically. You will be dependent, right? And therefore the qualitative research have some sort of limitations. Again, if you are doing the qualitative research, you will have some sort of limitation. Whereas as far as the quantitative research is concerned, quantitative research refers to the systematic empirical investigation of any phenomena via statistical, mathematical, or computational techniques. What does it mean? It means that whenever you are talking about statistical, mathematical, or computational technique, or I will add one more point, experimental technique, because it has not been mentioned here, but I will add one more thing, experimental techniques. So if you are doing some experiment, what is going, like you will have to put some, like you will have to follow a very specific protocol. What should be the parameters of that equipment? What should be the parameters of the the chemicals which you will be using for the experiment, and what blah blah blah, right? At the end, you are going to end up with a particular pattern of data, right? And that data will have a very specific trend, and that trend is going to tell you what is going to be the exact figures, exact outcome of your research, right? So your research would be more accurate in quantitative research. Whereas if you are doing qualitative research, there will be little deviation. So you need to, that margin you need to consider while if you really want to do the qualitative research. And therefore, you need to understand what is the difference between qualitative and quantitative research. This is another example. Quantitative data, the difference between what kind of distinction, fundamental distinction we will be having between quantitative and qualitative. The quantitative data is quantitative data is information about quantities and therefore numbers, and qualitative data is descriptive and related to phenomena which can be observed, which can be observed but not measured. The phenomenon can be observed but cannot be measured. Sometimes it happens, like the fine, let us say for example, I am teaching communicative skill, right, communication skill, right, soft skill to my student, right. So sometimes, the improvement in day-to-day speaking can be seen, but it cannot be quantified, right. Sometimes it can be described. I can see that, I can realize that, I can feel it, but I may not be able to quantify it, right. And therefore, as far as the qualitative data is concerned, it is going to be always descriptive. It is related to the phenomena which can be observed but cannot be measured most of the time. Whereas as far as quantitative data is concerned, it is always going to be absolute. You will be able to, it will be always in terms of numbers, right. And there is a difference here, conceptual and methodological. You can see that as far as the conceptual difference is concerned, in case of quantitative, the concern with quantitative data is concerned with understanding of human behavior from informant's perspective. This is what the quantitative research is all about. It concerned with understanding of human behavior from informant perspective. Whereas qualitative concerned with the discovery of facts about the social phenomenon. Sorry, this is I'm sorry. This is let me make the correction. This is actually qualitative and this is quantitative. Let me make correction here. Yes. Okay. So as far as the qualitative data is concerned, it concerned with understanding of human behavior from informant perspective. Whereas as far as the quantitative is concerned, it concerned with the discovering facts about the social phenomena. So it's going to be factual data, right? Qualitative research assumes a dynamic and negotiated reality. Okay, there will be changes, right, and you will have to negotiate. You will be doing some sort of negotiation. Whereas as far as the quantitative research is concerned, it assumes fixed and measurable reality. So as far as the quantitative research is concerned, you are going to have the very fixed and measurable reality. As far as methodological approach is concerned, difference is concerned, in case of qualitative, data are collected through participants observation and interviews. Like this is what the most of the qualitative we will be doing in most of the qualitative research, that you will be selecting participants and you will be observing them, and you are going to have the interviews and so on and so forth. Whereas as far as the quantitative research is concerned, data are collected through measuring things. You will be doing some experiment, you will be doing some conducting some experiment, and you will be having some data. In case of the quantitative data are analyzed through numerical comparisons. Data always analyzed to numerical, whereas here it's not going to be numerical comparison, right? So this is how it's always very description, and you will have to you will be dependent on the many parameters. Yeah. Okay. Let me, because now so far we have discussed what the basic research is, what is the difference between basic research and applied research, correlational research, and experimental research, and then qualitative and quantitative. I thought like I should give you some glimpses of this fundamental aspect. Now, whenever you are in the beginning phase of your research career, you need to do this viva analysis. Like your research should start with viva analysis. Before I tell you the details about Viva analysis, let me tell you about the Kaizen concept, what the Kaizen is all about. Basically, the Kaizen is, those who are from management science, I'm sure they might be well familiar with this Kaizen concept. Kaizen is basically the Japanese business philosophy of continuous improvement of working practices, personal efficiency, and etc. In fact, this Kaizen concept have been started. I mean, like foreign universities, they are particularly this is the concept which is being adopted in industry in particular. Industry started adopting this Kaizen concept. Initially, the foreign industry started adopting, and nowadays, even in a corporate sector, in many industries, they are having Kaizen competitions. What the Kaizen is something like, for example, if you are working in industry on one particular project, and you are, let us say, you are operating one machine, you are, I mean, you are in charge of one particular machine, and that machine is producing, let us say, 100 products per day. The machine is producing 100 products per day. So as far as Kaizen concept is concerned, your boss is going to tell you that Mr. XYZ, this year you are producing 100 products per year. I'm talking about quantitative aspect first, and then I will be telling you qualitative aspect as well. And then he will tell you, I want you from next month, like this month, you are giving me like 100 products per day. You have, because this is 1st of January, for example, in the month of December last year, you were producing 100 products. Now I'm going to give you another 30 days to make fine tuning in your processes. You do whatever you want, but from February onwards, from 1st of February, I want you to produce 110 devices. I don't want to listen anything else. It is your headache. You will have to do it. I don't want to listen anything. You, whatever changes you will have to make, you do it. If you need some raw material, if you need any help, I'm ready to provide you, but I want 110 project from next month onwards. This is what the Kaizen, I mean, you need to improve your quantity. Sometimes he may be telling you, fine, although you are producing 100 devices, but I want, like, we are doing compromise on this qualitative aspect, quality of the devices. Okay, now let's say efficiency of the devices, like efficiency is as on today, let us say 60%. He will be asking you, okay, fine, next month you do whatever permutation combination you will have to do, but do it. Next month I want that efficiency to be raised by at least 10%. I want 70% efficiency from next month. If you don't do it, you are not going to be part of my industry. Okay, this is how the culture has been developed in corporate sector. Don't you think that, my friend, this culture should have been developed in academics as well? Truly speaking, this kind of culture has already been adopted in most of the developed countries in academics as well, and that is why those universities are well ahead. If you look at QS World University ranking, India is well, I mean, behind. There are very tiny countries like Taiwan, South Korea, Singapore, even Hong Kong. Like, they are having at least one or two universities in first 100 top universities, QS World University ranking. But India being a very huge country, still we do have high profile institutions like IITs, ISERs, and many other high profile institutions where the government is spending crores of rupees. In spite of that, none of the university in India could figure out themselves in first 100, the top university, QS university ranking. What is the reason? The reason is we are not following this Kaizen concept in academics in India. Truly speaking, that need to be followed. Every teacher should be given some target every year, that yes, nothing doing, not only teacher, research scholar too, nothing doing, you have to do this, you have to come up with this much output. As far as teaching is concerned, passing percentage should be this much. It's not only quantitative, like passing percentage should be this much. Out of that, I want most of the students should qualify with first class. Like that, target should be given, like maybe like not only as far as teaching should be published, where it is to be published, all these targets should be given. Unless you give the target, हमारे पास क्या होता है ना, गधे घोड़े सब एक जैसे कर दिया हमने. This happens in academics in India. As far as research scholar is concerned, research scholar में वैसा ही है, जो अच्छा है वो भी वैसा, जो नहीं करता वो भी एक ही लेवल में सब खड़े हो जाते. Teachers also, the teacher who is not taking classes, he is more involved in university politics, and those who are dedicated teacher, they are nowhere. Unfortunate part of the story in India. Anyway, so this Kaizen concept should be there even in the universities as well. So what this Kaizen is a continuous improvement. That Kaizen should be followed. Forget about, my friend, academics, forget about the politics. You being a research scholar, you should follow this. And you will be able to have the continuous improvement only if you do Viva analysis. And therefore, Viva analysis should be integral part of your research processes. It's not only in the beginning. Let me tell you, my friend, it should not be only in the beginning phase of your career, but you should keep on doing it continuously throughout your career. What the Viva analysis is all about? What current and previous studies have been done on the issues to be studied. मतलब जो भी study आप करना चाहते हैं कि what kind of earlier studies have been carried out, and what is the current studies which students with the research scholars are doing. What is the available information on the magnitude, nature, and classes of the problem that you need to understand. What are the present gaps in the knowledge? This is very, very important, because unless you identify the gaps, you will not be able to have the strategies to address those gaps. And therefore, identification of gaps is going to be very, very important. Then what makes the problem worth studying? This is also equally important. Like whatever problem you have undertaken, why do you need, what do you need to do to make that problem worth studying? And then next is, why has the problem not been tackled yet? Because sometimes what happens whenever you are doing literature review, I will tell you this later. And then what do you intend to do to fill the gaps or solve the problem? So like whatever gaps you identified, what you want to do to fill that gap. So all these questions can be answered by doing very systematic and rigorous literature review that I'm going to tell you later. Okay. Now the last but one question, why has the problem not been tackled yet? Sometimes ऐसा बहुत बार होता है कि whenever you are doing literature review, you may get excited. आपको पता चलता है कि यार ये तो मुझे मिल गया, अब इसके ऊपर किसी ने काम ही नहीं किया. This is going to be wonderful idea for me. So far, nobody across the globe, nobody have worked on this topic. But don't get too much more excited, because कभी-कभी ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि the topic which has not been tackled yet, there must be some inherent problem. आपको देखना पड़ेगा कि क्यों नहीं हो रहा है. What are the issues? Why that problem not been tackled yet? अगर आप ये नहीं ढूंढोगे, आप नहीं उसके बारे में सोचेंगे, so what will happen? Maybe after 1 year you will come to know that no, this topic has some issues related to some laws of the university, some regulations of the not university regulations, some maybe nuclear reactor related regulations or something of that sort, right? And after 1 year, एक साल के बाद अगर आपको पता चलता है कि यार इसमें तो ये प्रॉब्लम थी, इसलिए कोई काम ही नहीं कर रहा है, then you will be in trouble, right? And therefore, my friend, you need to be very careful. जब भी आपको पता चलता है कि nobody has so far tackled this problem, you need to understand कि अभी तक ऐसा क्यों हुआ, and then try to like मतलब confirm करिए कि क्यों नहीं काम हुआ, then only you should proceed further. And then selection of research problem, the researcher select his problem based on number of factors. आपको ये देखना पड़ेगा कि why you have selected this problem, because if you are not selecting the problem from your heart, तो आप काम नहीं कर पाओगे. That is very important. सबसे important ये है कि इसलिए मैंने कहा था पहले दिन, first day I mentioned, if you really want to be happy, if you really want to be satisfied, you must be able to have lifelong association with that topic. Lifelong association तभी बनेगा क्योंकि देखिए, आपको अगर कोई चीज अच्छी नहीं लगती तो you would not be happy to have it for longer time unless you like it. So आप जब whenever you will be selecting topic problem, you need to see like what is the reason. So let us see, like to satisfy personal interest or curiosity. So are you choosing the topic to just to satisfy your personal interest or curiosity, or to furnish basis of confirming some earlier studies or basis of some future study? Somebody have already worked and then he has done some theoretical work, and I would like to do it, I would like to try it experimentally. Or somebody has done, but he has proposed the idea, but he has not developed many mathematical model. I would like to be a research scholar, like whatever he has described, I would like to develop mathematical model. किसी ने अगर मैथमेटिकल मॉडल किया है, so this is theoretical, right? So there would be a gentleman, he will say, okay, let me go ahead and do it, implement it, okay? और meet social need. आप देखिए कि आप किसके लिए, मतलब व्हाट इज योर कैटेगरी, आप मतलब किस कैटेगरी में अपने आप को आप रखना चाहोगे, टू सेटिस्फाई पर्सनल इंटरेस्ट और क्यूरियोसिटी, टू फॉर द बेसिस ऑफ कंफर्मिंग सम अर्लियर स्टडीज और बेसिस ऑफ सम फ्यूचर स्टडी, और आप क्या सोसाइटल कोई इश्यूज को लेकर आप रिसर्च करना चाहते हो? I would request you to have the highest priority to this, because nowadays, unfortunately, in India, there are n number of societal issues, and if you're really genuine, if you are really sincere, I'm sure you will be able to address one or other issues. And if you, I would request you to have that kind of passion in your mind, that I would like to be, part of that people which will be working for the society. Because anyway, I'm going to spend 2-3 years, 3-4 years for PhD. So why should why don't you spend time for creating something useful for the society, right? Therefore, my friend, you need to ensure that you will be doing one of these three. Then what are the steps? Okay, the first priority is to formulate question. Question is going to be very, very, of course, literature review, because literature review के बाद ही आप question generate करेंगे. इसलिए literature review is the first step, and next step is going to be formulate the question. Then figure out how you are going to answer it. First of all, देखिए, because literature review के पहले भी आपको एक question generate करना पड़ेगा. That is what I would refer it as a broad topic of your investigation. So you need to start with the broad topic of your investigation, and then you can start revolving around that, right? You can see like यहाँ पर देखिए क्या है. Then figure out how you are going to answer it, how others have answered it. This is what like you are going to see in the literature review. Like you are going to see the different research paper, and you will be going through those paper, and you will understand what kind of objectives they are having, what kind of methodology they are adopting, what kind of tools they are using for the interpretation of data, what are their conclusions, and at the end you will be very curious to understand pitfalls in their investigation. That is very important, because at the end of that paper review, if you are not able to understand, identify the pitfalls, you won't be able to have the novelty. And that is why the understanding pitfalls, identifying pitfall is going to be very, very critical step as far as the review of literature is concerned. And then how will you know when you have answered it? Again, like this is what I will say, the hypothesis testing. Like after the literature review, you are going to have formulate the hypothesis, you will be doing experiment, and then at the end you are going to test your hypothesis. So the first step is going to be research question. So research attempts to answer the question, because if you don't have questions, तो आपका research तो बनेगा ही नहीं ना, कोई मतलब ही नहीं होगा. And that is why you need to raise the question. Research must, as I told you yesterday also, and I'm reiterating the same statement. Research always start with questions and ends with questions again. Identifying the knowledge gap, developing questions to be answered, are the first step in the research process. As I mentioned earlier, research question will guide the rest of the design process, because if you are not able to formulate your questions systematically, you will not be able to design your research processes systematically and accurately. Yesterday somebody was asking that I was referring the success rate of experimental research. He said, like he has mentioned, right, one of the participant from your gathering, he said, if you can have the fine tuning, if you minimize the errors in designing, can it be possible to minimize the failure rate? Yes, it is very much, but it will take time. It will take time, because unless you do it, you are not going to improve it. So first of all, whenever you will be doing, you will be committing a lot of mistake. Do the mistake, learn out of that, and then make the fine tuning, and obviously you will be able to improve your success rate. So research questions, like something about research question, something you want to know about discipline or about specific area within your discipline, like whatever the area, whatever the topic, your broad topic you must have identified, you need to frame that question. It is not going to be topic or fragment or phrase or sentence, right? It should be very clear and precisely stated, because if your question is very vague, I'm going to give you some examples also, clear and unclear questions. Then it would be very difficult. If it is too broad, if it is too narrow, then, because if it is too broad, you will not be able to achieve during stipulated time, right? Because जैसे कि आपको एक बड़ा सैटेलाइट बनाना है, right? अरे भैया लेकिन आपको 3 साल में पीएचडी करनी है, would you be able to fabricate that entire satellite? Although you have got good amount of knowledge, but would you be able to do it within the 3 years of stipulated time? So it should not be too broad. It should not be too narrow, because you need to have some scope to work. It should not be too narrow. It should be a little open-ended. It should not be completely open-ended. It should be little open-ended so that you will be having a lot of opportunity to make modification. It cannot be answered in like sentence or phrases, right? I have given some examples of question. Is television going to survive in digital eye, or will it become absolute like digital camera? जैसे कि आपको पता है कि now because of every mobile now, even forget about the hype, I mean the sophisticated, very costly mobile cell phone, even like the cell phone costing around 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 rupees as a smartphone, have the camera, inbuilt camera, and megapixel is also, quality is also really good. So that has absolute, or digital camera. So is it going to happen with television? Because truly speaking, nowadays you can see everything on net. If you are having your laptop, everything is net. So this is going to be a question. Is television going to survive in digital eye, or will it become absolute in absolute like digital camera? So answer to this question cannot be in terms of yes or no. It has, I mean, you need to do a lot of permutation combination. You need to propose a lot of examples. You need to see like theories, examples, data to convince that yes, it is either you will be defending this question or you will be on other side of this question. Another question: what are the factors motivate young people to commit violence? You can see here also, you can see the broadness, you can see the compactness. It is not too much narrow or is not too much broad as well, right? Third question: does exercise improve the quality of sleep? So these are probable questions I'm telling you. Okay. Now the research questions, like it depends on like because whatever question you will be generating, it all depends on, it is reflection of your personal experience, reflection of the theoretical knowledge you have gained. It depends on your own observations. It depends on the contemporary issues, and depends on engagement with literature, because how you are engaging yourself with literature. So all these factors are going to play a very critical role for defining questions in the research process right in the beginning of your research. Your research questions should be very clear, very focused, very concise, very complex, and it should be arguable too, right? Let me tell you some examples. I'm not going to clear everything, but let me give you example of at least one. Like, what is the clear and unclear topic? Questions. Let's say unclear. Why are social networking sites harmful? So this is again question, but this is not clear. This is very broad, very vague. Why are social networking sites harmful? This is very broad question, very vague question. Clear would be, how are online users experiencing or addressing privacy issues on such a social networking sites like Facebook? So this is going to be very, not too much narrow, but not too much broad as well. Very clear, not, doesn't have any ambiguity, very clear, right? Like for example, by social networking site, what is the what kind of harm it is going to have, who is going to get the harm, who will be like on either on the user side or on the other side, right? So this is one example of the clear questions. I will leave this topic apart now, because I cannot take everything from this because I thought, let me tell you, because question is going to be very important. I thought, let me tell you how raising question is going to play important as far as the quality research is concerned. Now I'm going to switch over to another topic. What are the challenges? What kind of challenges you will be having while doing research? Because as I mentioned earlier, क्योंकि मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ, I am not following any particular book. As I mentioned earlier, I have collected some topic and then I am putting my own perspective, right? Because I would like to tell you how this this fundamental aspect of research is going to play a very important role as far as the the impactful data creation is concerned at the end of your research, right? Now similarly, this is also very important. Like you are very genuine, अभी जो मैंने बताया वो सब आपने किया, but what are the challenges you will be having? तो आपको वो challenges भी पता होना चाहिए, क्योंकि आप अगर अच्छा काम करना चाहते हो तो if you don't know challenges then you will be in trouble. So what is first? The time constraint. The first is going to be time constraint. Sometimes I'm taking it in positive reference, right? Not negative reference. Like time constraint means, like you are a research student, right? You must have spent of course you have completed your master degree. By that time you may not be having good financial status, right? And you will have to spend another 3 to 4 years for getting your PhD, right? Now some student, like I remember there was one student, I don't want to name him. He completed, he is doing at present PhD. He is with me since last 5-6 years. I was ready to come. He, like 2 years back, he has come up with 3 publications 2 years back, and I said, Mr. XYZ, now you have completed, you have published three papers in good Scopus Index journal. Now please go ahead and submit your thesis. But he said, no sir, I'm not satisfied with my outcome. Although I have published 3 papers, but somehow I'm not happy, because I want to do more. Because we have got huge infrastructure with us, but somehow I could not explore each and every. Unfortunately, I was having one DSC project and he was getting fellowship. So I said, okay, no problem. Since you don't have any financial problem, go ahead and do it. But sometimes what happens, if you are having some financial issues and then time constraint in terms of getting degree and getting yourself employed, although you are curious, although you are very much interested, you may not be able to reach your target, right? And therefore this time constraint and financial problem is going to be challenges. Because you need to manage that. That is why while entering into the research, you need to focus this, how you are going to deal with this, because you need to understand these are going to be your challenges and you need to have a plan to deal with those challenges. Laboratory facilities, sometimes it happens, everybody is not going to get good laboratory facilities. If you are unfortunate to have access to the state of that facility, then you need to learn, you need to understand how to get the access. You need to see what are the other laboratories available in the country, how to get the collaboration, how to enter into the laboratory through collaborative mode. So that challenges need to be dealt with. Then availability of equipment, like laboratory facility, human resource limitation. Sometimes as a teacher, I may have human resource limitation. Like I still remember, sometimes whenever we are bringing projects, we need to employ student, right, as a project fellow. But if you don't have option for choosing a right student, then since we don't have available human resources, whatever resources we have to manage with that. Sometimes it happens in research, it happens sometimes. So but still, if this is one of the challenge, I need to deal with that. Then proper literature review, that is also very important, because most of the student, they are not doing literature review properly.